Part 1, Question 5, Article 6, whether goodness is rightly divided into the virtuous, the useful, and the pleasant. And a note on the Latin here, virtuous is here from the Latin bonum honestum, which means virtue. I just wanted to mention that, though, because we're not using the Latin virtus, which means manliness or power. And if I had to guess, what would I guess? Well, in the previous article, we saw that goodness comes from number, measure, and weight, also from species, mode, and order. It seems the more the merrier, which is not exactly how St. Ambrose put it, but he did use these three categories, the virtuous, the useful, and the pleasant. Wait a minute, aren't they all the same? And that's where the objections come from, three different ways of saying that these categories are just that, all the same. And that's why Aristotle did not use these terms, and he was pretty good at categorizing stuff. Thomas gives some counterexamples. The virtuous, after all, is pleasing, isn't it? And everything good is useful, isn't it? At least nothing wicked can be useful, truly useful. Or how about this? If something is truly useful in a good way, then it would also necessarily be both virtuous and pleasing. But Thomas is not talking about tools in the shed. He answers that this division properly concerns human goodness. And Thomas reminds us that goodness means desirability. Then he continues with, quote, the virtuous is that which is desired for its own sake, which means that virtuous actions are fitting for us humans to do them. Useful and pleasant things are also good, just in different ways. Notice that appetites are good. A good, healthy appetite attracts you to good, healthy food for the good reason of being good and strong so that you can go out and do good things. Which is why Ambrose and Aristotle seem to disagree. They were looking at goodness from different angles. And keeping that in mind will help us stay on the right track. Reply to objection 2. Vices, after all, might seem pleasant, even if they are harmful to the life of virtue. Bitter medicine is unpleasant, but you still take it because it is useful. Not surprisingly, Thomas is against using the blind pursuit of pleasure as your guide in life. Seek virtue, seek goodness, seek true happiness, doing things that are worth doing for their own sake. Reply to objection 3. Goodness is not being divided into these three categories as something univocal or predicated equally to all of them, but as something analogical, to be predicated to them according to priority and posteriority. Hence it is predicated chiefly to the virtuous, then to the pleasant, and lastly to the useful, which is such practical advice. Are you bored? Think of something worth doing for its own sake, something virtuous. Then go do useful things and accomplish that goal, even if it is somewhat unpleasant or not the most pleasant thing you could think of doing at that exact time. So think of the virtuous thing to do. Do the virtuous thing, then be pleased with the accomplishment, even if it, after all, isn't all that entirely useful. Clean up something. Go clean a drawer. Then stand there with a self-satisfied, goofy grin. And if that is not the key takeaway from question 5 of part 1 here, what would be the key takeaway? That Thomas is staking out a position different from, in contrast to Plato's one uniform form of the good, the almighty, all-encompassing form of the good. There is division, there is distinction in goodness.